Welcome back to the Heritage Museum this morning. I'm happy to have you come. My face looks a little red. We're asked to wear masks at this time. The museum is open to the public, but we are encouraging that you come in small groups and that you wear masks for your own protection. The story we're going to tell this morning is the story of Kate Adams, and she was known in the area affectionately as Mother Adams, and in many, many articles in the newspaper, that is what they called her, Mother Adams. Kate was born in Virginia in Westmoreland, which is the same county where George Washington was born, in 1887. Or 67, February the 25th, and she was a twin. She had a brother, and he unfortunately passed away when he was 11 years old. She was of a great lineage. One of her forefathers was the first white settler in Virginia. Another one signed one of the amendments for the Virginia area. He was influential in the government there. Her father was a member of the Confederate armies and fought during the wars. She was a little Southern belle. It was in 1887, she met her to-be husband. His name was George Adams. Her family name previously had been Forrest. This is a picture of George. He was a very well-known musician. He worked as a core member of the meteorological services. And the year they were married, this is a picture of her as a young woman. When they got married, he was ordered to come to Utah and to set up a meteorologist area up in Indian Canyon, north of Duchesne. And that was where they were when they first moved out here in the very first year of their marriage. When she was asked how she liked it, she said she loved it. I'm gonna switch this camera just a little bit so that I can. So this is the picture of her that I'd like you to think about for a few moments. She was a little Southern belle, and she came to the West, enjoying what was happening. She liked the wildness of it. She was up in Indian Canyon, so that was remote, and she grew to absolutely love her lifestyle in this new land. They had one son. And the reason why we're in this area of the museum is because in this case, we have the cornet of George, and I just thought it would be a fun place to at least have a connection to her story. So she was in this area during the time of women's suffrage, but unlike other women in the area, she was not an advocate of women's rights. She felt like women didn't have a place in politics or in business. However, she was very into helping her fellow men and women. She had a very huge spirit of love for her fellow human beings. And so she was known for her philanthropic philosophy. She understood the out of doors, and she also liked the woolly west. One of the fun things she said was that her job in life was to have picnic parties, and they were her joy. She would take children. I'm going to find a picture of them here, out for picnics. They said that, well, let me just tell you a little story about her picnic adventure. She was always recognized by her little sailor hat. I'm going to get this picture up here. And the children knew her by her sailor hat. Her brother-in-law sent a sailor's cap to her son, but he wouldn't wear it. So she did, and she continued to wear one thereafter, even adorning her head at death. She was a small little lady, but had a large, generous heart. One of her picnic stories was when she went on a swimming outing, and she drove the children north on Highway 199 from Main Street here in Vernal in her fancy Buick. And there she turned east to where the road ended, following along a tree-lined lane. The canal ran around the lane on the other side of the road, which was built up on a bank into the side of the hill. This canal was used for the community's drinking water, and a ditch rider was hired to ride the canal to make sure no children were swimming in the water, also watching for any animal that might be drinking from the canal. He heard the children laughing and playing in the water. He stepped down from his horse, trudged up the canal, and hollered at them in a loud voice to get out of the water. Mother Adams, adorned in an old-fashioned swimming suit, including her little sailor hat, jumped out of the water, stormed up the bank. She lit into him like a little mad banty hen. She informed the startled ditch rider that on a hot day like this, he shouldn't be hollering at the children to get out of the water, and he shouldn't be scaring them. As he started to back off, Mother Adams, with arms on her hips, marched him right up the hill and down the road with his tail between his legs. Then the children back on the hill jumped into the water, and they all had a great swim. I have a picture of some of the children she would take on picnics. This is a picture of her with some of her Boy Scouts, and she'd go out into the deep areas of the county, and they would spend the day building fires, bonfires, and having a great time together. She was also known for teaching the little girls how to be ladies. Notice she's still wearing her little tea party type experience. They're all in formal dress. She looks pretty fancy dressed too, but she's still wearing her hat. And that cake looks like it would be mighty tasty. She was so loved by the children. She would buy tickets for up to 50 children and let them all go to the circus. She had these picnic parties with children all the time. And her stories of the Wild West and the things that she had experienced in her life were so dear to all of them because of the things that she had to share with them. She also was known for liking to go hunting. This is a deer hunting expedition. She did that clear up until she lived to be 93, and she was out still planning into her late 80s to go on some of these hunting trips with people. Quite the lady. She was also known for giving a lot of money away. So her husband passed away in 1944. And though I told you she wasn't interested in politics or in business, she did inherit all of his funds. So she spent the rest of her life using his funds to help other people. She found out that the American Legion did not have a building, and so she provided a building for them. And for years to come, she was often invited to that building to celebrate her birthday because of the great love that the people had for her. She was also very influential to the soldiers during World War II. She wrote many, many, many letters and sent gifts to the soldiers, and they would send her hats. And so she had many hats in her collection, but she wore them everywhere she went. One of the things that they said was that one time she did travel a lot. She loved to travel, and she went even to Europe. She is featured in one of the journals from the Regional History Center, and there's pictures of her and a few of the articles that I've read, but I did not read everything because I'd like you to take the time to look her up and find out more about her life, but you can see her in her hat in many different areas. Her husband, as I said, was a cornet player. There was a time when he created a band here in the Adams Band here in Vernal, and he made sure that the men all had the instruments that you blow, like the cornet, trumpets, trombones, and they made a band. And obviously they would do the parades with a horse and a wagon like this. I'm sure she had a great deal of love for her husband. They lived in a home that had 11 rooms right on Main Street on about 2nd and Main. And it was torn down many years ago. But when her husband passed away, when he was in his 80s, she felt that house was too big for her anymore. So she sold the house and she moved into a hotel, and she lived in a hotel the rest of her life. And like I say, she lived to be 93 years old. And so that was many, many years. On her 98th birthday, she spent it in a hospital. She was on a street in Salt Lake walking to go to a dinner, and a car came along and hit her and ran away. They never found it. It was a hit and run, and she was in the hospital at the time. It broke her leg in several places, but she recovered from that. She also, a couple of other interesting facts. She went to 2 inaugurals of presidents. She went to Cleveland's, and she also went to Eisenhower's. When she was at Eisenhower's out east in Virginia, which was near her family, she suffered an acute appendicitis attack and was also again in the hospital in her late 80s, but she kept recovering. It was 58, I believe, she fell and broke her hip. And that was when she was 93 years old. And at that time, she could not recover from that, and she passed away. But the people in Vernal that knew her, the people who have heard of her, will always remember little Mother Adams, the lady in the sailor hat. We do have one in our collection. It is not on display at this moment, The Regional History Center has another one of her hats, and it is on display at the Regional History Center. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about Kate. She was a remarkable woman who lived here in the Uinta Basin. Goodbye.